Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of BizBooks, where I interview great business authors who wrote great business books. My name is Gene Marks. Thank you for watching and listening as well. Today, I've got with me Thomas Erikson, who is the author of Surrounded by Idiots, The 4 Types of Human Behavior and How to Effectively Communicate with Each in Business and in Life. The book can be found at surroundedbyidiots.com, and I'm assuming on Amazon as well. First of all, Thomas, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I'm glad that you're here. So first of all, I mean, the obvious jokes and comments can be made about the title itself, which I think is excellent. And you sound like me waiting for a plane in any airport. Let me first of all ask you how you arrived at this book. What do you do for a living, and and what brought you to write this book?
Okay, that's actually kind of a long story. I will try to boil it down to the interesting parts. Well, the thing is, I was writing books before. I've been writing thrillers for 10 years. Nobody read them, nobody bought them, but so I'm probably not a natural talent, probably. But I'm working as a management consultant and a lecturer, giving talks about behaviors, personality types, colors, red, yellow, green, blue, and so on and so forth. So I digested those two. I put them together in one sort of product. I wrote a thriller about this behaviorist was using the 4 colors and different kinds of methods to help the police, some sort of profiler, The Mentalist, if you maybe saw that old series. And people called me up and said, oh, that's a nice story. But the tool the guy in the books is actually using, where can we learn more about that? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know any books on the topic. I know there are several books on the topic. And after I answered that question for, 500 times, I said to myself, well, maybe I should put it together. And I'm going to give it some sort of a catchy title. So I named it Surrounded by Idiots. And I went to my publisher and they said, that's the stupidest idea we ever heard. Go back to writing thrillers. It's a stupid title. It's an ugly cover. The cover is my own design. And they said, it's really bad. People are going to get angry, Don't do it. Go back to writing thrillers. I've never been good at taking, let's say, advice. I wrote it anyway, and I published it myself.
Good.
Nothing ever happened. I drove around to my clients with, boxes of books in the back of my car and sort of forced them upon people. Take 10 books, 5, 2, take 1 book. And said, oh, gee, what is this? But that's how it started. So I sort of managed to get out, I think, 3,000 copies out there. And then I got it into the shops at the airports here in Sweden. And then all of a sudden, boom, everybody was talking about idiots. So basically, that's it.
That is a great story. And so right now, as we're speaking, do you make your living as an author and a speaker, or do you run any kind of an organization? Are you applying these skills in real life as it is?
I do all of it. I work as a speaker, as a public speaker. I give lectures every week all over Europe. Actually, I'm planning to going to the States. I write books. Obviously, I write the 6th book in the series as we speak. I have a deadline in actually a couple of hours, to be honest.
Okay.
Mostly done. And I am also consulting. I am doing executive coaching and mentoring for pretty advanced people. I mean, CEOs or lots of entrepreneurs who have no one to turn to. I usually can give them some clarity when it comes to how they should run their business and their lives, maybe. Good. So I'm kind of, but everything is based on behaviorism and how we interact, how we communicate. So it's sort of the base is the same, although I use it in different ways. So then I produce online courses and I have an app and so on and so forth. So
that is great. I mean, I'm a small business owner here in the States. I have 10 employees and about a dozen contractors. When people ask me if I were to go back to college and and take another degree, my first answer is I would take psychology, because it's all about dealing with people, and the people that I deal with. We have about 600 clients. I'm a CPA, a certified public accountant. I don't know if it's a chartered accountant in Sweden or what terminology you use, but we have about 600 active clients, small and mid-sized business owners, which is why I found your book extremely interesting, because I'm terrible judging people. I'm terrible figuring people out. And this is like a methodology for doing that. So let's kind of jump to it a little bit. All right. I'd like to, kind of dig in. You say that, 80% of the people have at least two colors that sort of dominate their behavior. You make that statement. So with that in mind, let me ask you to walk us through this first grid. And then I've got another grid, the color grid, that we can talk about as well. But walk us through these four big sort of ways that you're categorizing people and the colors that apply to them.
Okay, well, this is actually a variety and a modern version of the disc profile. So it's not my own. It's not my own tool. I haven't discovered or invented or researched anything myself. I only put it together in a book in a way that people like to read. Right. As I'm not a psychologist. I'm a behaviorist, which is actually not the same thing at all. Okay. There's a bit of a language issue there. I realize that, but a behaviorist is the closest thing to. But anyways, well.
And by the way, in my ignorance, I would assume that they are very similar. So that's interesting.
Well, they have similarities, of course, but they have lots of differences. Okay. Mostly, the biggest difference is the psychologists don't like behaviorists at all because they are too sort of hands-on. But anyways, that's a bit of a joke. But sorry about that all. Psychologists who listen to this. But anyways, no, you have two axes. You have a standing axis, this on this, and you have task orientation, then you have people orientation. And here you have, let's see, here you have, is it the right way? This is introversion, and here you have extroversion. So you have sort of a 2x2 matrix, which we consultants, of course, love, 2x2 matrices. The four-way models, and you have the red behavior, smart people, quick people, likes to be likes to be smart, likes to be really efficient, very, let's say, well, it says a dominant, but they are very decisive, very fast forward, bam, decisive action, not words, and thought action all the time. Speed up, let's go ahead, and we're in a hurry. Well, we're not in a hurry, but we could speed up things anyways because life is short. So let's get going. That kind of people, don't sort of stay around too long. They just push the pedal to the metal to say. So that's it. Task oriented and extrovert. And then you have the yellow factor, which is also extroverted, which is more. I mean, extroversion is kind of an energy. People who likes to be active, let's say, instead of passive, which is more of the introvert energy. Let's go over there. Okay. But anyway, no, but they're also people oriented, the yellow ones. So they are smiling and open-minded and positive, very visionary thinkers. Also quite fast, but not as fast as the red ones. The red ones, they win the fast game there. They are always, their thoughts are kind of into the future. How about going there and maybe when we are there up on a hill, up there, can you see that we're conquering the world, Everybody else would say, well, how did we get to it? Never mind that. Let's just do this. Bam. No details, very emotional, like this. Impulsive, as it says there. And then you go over to the introverted side, and then you have the people-oriented introverts, which would be the green ones, more calmer, very caring, very sharing, very supportive, very good listeners, good team players. They really hear what you say, and they notice what you say, and they will remember what you said, especially if it was something bad. Especially if it was something bad about the green person, that's going to be file on shelf 1A for the whole eternity. Never forgets, those things. Calm, hiding their emotions very well, trying to look really like this, and they hate changes. Okay. Changes is really bad. And then you have the blue factor, who are introverted and task oriented, which is sort of, well, as you can see, if it would be in a movie, I would say an accountant or a tax lawyer or an engineer, analytical, a bit squarish in their thinking, very cautious, detail, very precise, detail oriented, asking questions again and again and questioning things, because how do you know? Quality is everything. So that's the basics. Then you can mix them statistically, as you mentioned, statistically, and we know this is not just an opinion. This is based on data, that you have mostly two colors in your combined profile. There are people with one color, about 5% of the population, but most people have two colors. So you need to figure out, and there you have the positive and the negative sides. Yeah.
So before we even like move over to the colors themselves, I mean, obviously you can't pigeonhole everybody into just one category, right? And you said as well, I mean, there's different people have different things. So so is the general idea is that, and by the way, I see this in myself, is the general idea that you said that 80% of the people usually have like two, they tend towards two of these categories of the four. And speaking personally on myself, I'm both the dominant and the compliance, believe it or not. Is that because no person has all those different, parts of their personality. Is there any relationship between these four categories? In other words, because I'm saying I'm dominant and yet I'm compliant, is that sort of a natural or inconsistent? Is it normally dominant and stable peoples or in the same type of category? You
ask the same question. You ask the same questions, and most people ask, "Am I okay? Am I kind of sort of normal?" Or
well, I know I'm not okay, and I know I'm not normal. So we don't even have to spend time on that.
No, just kidding. No, but seriously, the thing is this: if you are only red, as my wife actually turns out to be, she's only red.
She's 98%
red.
So let me stop you right there. So she's only red. So she has minimal interest in relationships. I mean, how long have you been married? I mean,
5 years now.
Okay, that's an interesting relationship.
She's kind of into me. But when it comes to, let's say, business, she can talk to people. She can have a business lunch, but they want to go away. But they kept talking about their children, their vacations. I don't care. I want to to do business. She's extremely business-like. She would be a success in America. To be honest, she's really efficient. It's a shame. Right. In Sweden, we have a cultural, let's say, cultural blanket on top of each and every nation, each and every culture in the world. I mean, in the United States of America, you are more used to the extroverted side. You're more used to talking about yourself, presenting yourself to the world in a natural way. You're really good at this, good at conversating about those kind of things. In Sweden, we have the green blanket on top of things, which means people have a tendency to listen more, and paying some attention, even those who's not really interested in that, because it's kind of a culture. Sit down and close there, and be patient and be friendly and nice and so on.
Right.
So it's kind of, but anyways, my wife, what's the question again?
Well, we're talking about sort of like, you're picking and choosing different personality traits. So for example, I like to talk about me, Thomas. I mean, I don't know what does that mean? But I look at like the dominant trait. It means that I'm a nut. But the dominant trait is, I connect to a lot of those traits there. But then meanwhile, I go to the compliant trait and I connect to a lot of the traits there, but not all of them. For example, like your wife, I have minimal interest in relationships. And I don't really take cautious action. But I do avoid involvement. Yeah. So there's back and forth there. And then when I look at certain things and for inspiring and stable, I could be picking and choosing there. I guess the question I have is that nobody fits themselves perfectly into one box. You said your wife was like dominant, only red, and I find that hard to believe.
I'm going to tell you said that, actually. The thing is, she thinks, the thing is that statistically, red is the least common color. 9.5% of the population in the industrialized world has red as the strongest factor. And only 5% of the population has only one color. So the single reds, they are actually 0.5% of the population. She thinks it's good. That makes me unique, she says. Next point on the menu, let's say. But the thing is this, she's really easy to wrap your head around. You kind of get her quickly. And she said, I mean, she's a normal person. She understands, she knows this just as good as I do, which made, she knows how how she can be perceived. Is she, just wandering into the let's say, the porcelain store, like, she doesn't do that anymore.
Right.
She used to say, I did it when I was younger, before I got some self-awareness. Then I just boom, 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 and people got, oh, what is this?
Sure.
She doesn't do that anymore. I did that too, because I have some red in me. I also have I have equally red and blue, and then I also have some yellow. Right. I have no green whatsoever.
Right.
My apologies to all the greens out there. But it is, why is that? Well, who knows? Doesn't matter. I don't spend too much time thinking about how did I end up like this? Why am I like this? And why are you like that? It doesn't matter. Now we are who we are, and let's do something good about it.
Okay,
self-awareness is the key here.
I want to jump on that about doing something about it. I mean, the whole point of me reading this book, and I think a lot of my clients, a lot of your readers, is that they want to understand the people that they're dealing with that much better. If I'm sitting across from a client, a prospect, a partner, a supplier, my son, whatever, I want to be able to use this grid that we're looking at right now, hopefully make some type of evaluation to say, like, okay, this person is a dominant person with a few touches of compliance, in her, or him. And once I figured that out, then we can go to the next step, which we're going to get to the next grid of all the colors and, like, sort of some actions. How do you deal with that person? Because that, in the end, is what we're trying to accomplish here. So how can I figure that out? Like, you and I have only spent a few minutes together. So when you meet somebody, you've been practicing this for a while now. What is your methodology for when you walk away from a conversation, or maybe it's during the conversation, that you figure out where this person is? Is it just natural to you, or is it something that you have to think about later before you go back and have a relationship with that person?
That's an excellent question, Gene. Firstly, it's not natural for me at all. I really messed things up when I was younger. Seriously, I made such a fool out of myself so many times, and you have no idea. But well, I guess so. Some people have some sort of, let's say, natural instinct for sort of connecting with people, but everybody can get better. What I do during a conversation, I observe your body language, I observe your tendency to interrupt me.
Yeah.
I see you're kind of really into this, I see your energy, so I try to mirror you when it's my turn to speak. I don't try to interrupt you because you like to tell me what you think, and you have thought this through. I mean, you're really well prepared, which is the blue side of the scheme here.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm seeing a lot of red in you right now, I would say, because you have an agenda. You want to get some answers from the horse itself. So I'm going to give them to you. I do it. I observe. I usually go green when I haven't met a person before. So I stay pretty silent, and then I listen, and then I observe, and then I analyze. These days, it's kind of subconsciously, in a way, I guess. But everybody can practice this. And then I realized, okay, I knew you were red. I wouldn't have guessed blue until you said it. That would have taken a bit longer. Then I had to add, as I mentioned before, that you're an American. Mm-hmm. So I know that you're really good at presenting yourself. You have this extroverted energy, Mm-hmm. You have this kind of thing going, and which is not the same thing here in little Sweden. And there's no, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm only saying I have to adopt to the differences here, which are what makes things interesting. What if everybody was exactly the same? That would be super boring, in my opinion.
Do you ever talk to other people to also get a sort of a viewpoint on the person that you're trying to figure out? So, again, say I've met somebody new. I'd like to have a relationship with them, a business relationship. Say they're gonna be a client of mine or whatever. And I want to deal with them as efficiently, as best as possible. So I walk away from the conversation with my thoughts about that person. Say, okay, they could be a bit of red, bit of blue, but do you, if you were in that situation, would you ever talk to other people that know that person to get their perspectives on the type of person that person is?
Oh,
You don't. Why
no.
not?
Well, depends on who I should ask. If I ask my wife, how would you interpret him or her? I know she knows what she's talking about. Or maybe a colleague, because I'm also in a network of consultants who knows these things. Because most people are guessing. He's really good. He's really trustworthy, and he's sort of positive and everything. I hear a lot of things. Oh, he said he was red. I really believe him. He was kind of, boom, boom, like this. And then I meet the person and it's not red at all, because most people would like to be red because it sounds kind of cool, Most people are not red. So no, I trust myself mostly. That's a very
Good answer.
maybe not very charming trait, but I actually do that unless I know who I should go to, or I should turn to get a good sort of assessment of an individual. But usually I can go to my literary agent, and she says, well, we're middle of the negotiation with your American publisher. Okay, what's their color? She's going to say, oh, I don't know, they're so nice and so kind and so friendly. Geez, that doesn't give me anything, So then I say, okay, you show me their email.
Okay.
Let me see their email and see how they are sort of phrasing and everything. So yeah.
Let me ask you another question along those same lines. Have you ever, or could you ever make a similar evaluation about a person, or supplement your in-person evaluation by how that person is online? Whether or not you follow them on Twitter, whether or not you see some, maybe, a lot of people are doing videos, so maybe you see them interviewed somewhere or making a presentation or whatever. In other words, is that a way to sort of supplement your judgments of these people, or your thoughts about these people after meeting them in person? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question, actually, because you never know. I get lots of questions asked about famous actors, politicians. What do you think about this? Joe Biden, what's his colors? Trump, he's an idiot, right? And Obama, what do you think about him? All these things. I don't take stand when it comes to politics, because I'm not an American. I don't have to. But people have opinions. The thing is this: politicians are like actors. Who are the real man or woman behind? You never know. So I need to see them sort of maybe in an interview or something. People who are acting online, are they pretending? Are they playing a role? It's really hard to say who they really are. I can see Tom Hardy in an interview and I can say something about him. I would guess he's bipolar, to be honest, but that has nothing to do with this. It's nothing to do with this. And I don't know. George Clooney, who is he?
You would give that a lot, seeing what their behavior is online, or on video, unless it's face-to-face, you would give that a lot less weight in your evaluation as to what.
Well, I need to look for, okay. I would need to look for patterns. I would need to see at least 10 YouTube videos of one individual to read the body language, and to see, are there some places where they are not sort of on alert all the time? Could I see something? If somebody should show something, some sort of, let's say some edutainment or infotainment of any kind, are they saying that, are they reading from a manuscript? Well, dominant red, that is a quick reaction, maximum effort to control, minimal interest for caution in relationships. That's sort of kind of, not yellow at least. Or is it that it's a rapid reaction, maximum, minimalist change, and I got this fantastic idea. That's kind of the yellowish style. If there's more like, well, I'm making a YouTube video and it's really nice to be here, and I love everything about it. It's probably greenish, but I need to see the pattern, because believe it or not, even though we have the 4 basic factors, they can be combined in 19,400 ways.
Yeah.
Algorithmically speaking. So it's more advanced than only, but it's the basic ingredients. But people are even more complex even than that. You need to understand their motivators, their drivers, let's say. You need to understand lots of other stuff as well, and also in which environment they are working. Are they working in a huge organization with 10,000 people? Do they have an idiot as a boss? Is their boss a narcissist? Are themselves a narcissist? There's a lot of things to consider. I can see the basics after a while, probably, with most people, because that is what I'm trained to do. But I would never say I got this guy 100%. That would be a very, very unwise thing to do, actually.
Okay, I got you. All right. So let's recap so far. You actually do, halfway through the book, you give like a review of the sort of core behavior patterns. And I wanted to get your thoughts. I'm gonna ask you for the 4 we're going to talk about, and I'm going to ask you just your thoughts on how to deal with these behaviors. So you say, for example, that reds are quick and more than happy to take command if needed. They make things happen. However, when they get going, they become control freaks and they can be hopeless to deal with, right? And you said they repeatedly, trample on people's toes. So, okay, let's say that you've gotten to the point where you're like, I am dealing with a red personality. What would you do? Like, what is your, how would you behave in that situation? How would you adjust your behavior?
Cut the crap. Go straight forward to the you prepare yourself with 3 bullet points: A, B, Z. Then you did, and then you just leave the room. You don't mess around. You don't ask them personal questions. You don't ask, how was your weekend? They don't care. I mean, red people, they have learned how to smile and do this, but they don't want to do it. They don't like it. So they are sort of adapting to a situation. Some of them really hate it. They're not interested in talking about themselves, and they don't want you to talk about you as well, because they don't care. I know it's kind of uncharming, but it's the red factor. You go straight to the point. Things is blowing up in our faces. What should we do? This is my proposal. Do this and that, and go and then you're going to get an answer, yes or no, because they don't sort of beat about the bush. They will give you an answer, bam, like this, and you better remember what they said.
That's great advice.
So I mean, the meetings are the shortest with the red people. They don't. Their attention span is, think about it like a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
How long can you get a 6-year-old to stand there and listen to you lecturing?
Yeah.
Well, 2 minutes.
Yeah. God, you were describing me so much. I mean, I have an attention span of a 6-year-old, and when I go to meeting, I'm like famous.
I noticed that actually.
I have a call coming up after you where it's like a 90-minute scheduled meeting with a group of people, and I'm like jumping out of my skin at the thought of it. Because I know if I was running this meeting, I'm not running this one, but if I was running it, it would be 10 minutes, but anyway, I diverge. Okay, let's talk about yellows, right? You say yellows can be amusing, creative, and elevate the mood regardless of who they're with. However, they will consume all the oxygen in the room. They won't allow anyone into a conversation. Tell us what you would do if you were dealing with a yellow.
I would smile a lot, and I would say, "How are you? Oh, walk me through your latest weekend. What happened? And did you meet any interesting people? Oh, I'm happy you're asking. Well, it started on Saturday morning, and then they would just blah, 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 because you have to give them this. You have to give them this. Not that it's very easy to stop them when they start talking about it, because they will start every sentence with I or with me or something interesting like this. You have to allow that for a couple of minutes, not too long, because they can tell you anecdotes and funny stories, and you will laugh and they will entertain you, and it's going to be hilarious from the first second. It's going to be super nice and super everything. After 89 of those 90 minutes, you might find yourself asking, what happened during this meeting? It was fantastic and everything, but is anybody taking notes?
Sure.
Where's my pencil? I don't know. Nobody's noting anything, but it was nice and friendly and all the time. So you have to let them do this for a couple of minutes, and then you have to sort of start pushing them in the right direction. Okay, back to the agenda here, Gene. Let's say that you were the yellow guy. Oh, I can see. I would love to hear more about that motorboat of yours. during the lunch, perhaps. How about the next time we meet? Maybe in August, I don't know. But now let's move over to the agenda. Number one, bullet point number one, and then you sort of walk them through this, and you have to sort of keep the control of this situation without making them feel that you keep control over the situation, if you know what I mean. The yellow ones are actually the trickiest ones because they can be kind of touchy if you control them too much. They don't like that. They hate that. And then they're gonna start, being a bit, oh, you don't like me. I thought we were friends, So this is kind of, sometimes they can also be a little bit like kids in a way, but you have to let them do this and vision things and be creative and so on. I mean, if you push the right buttons, I mean, creativity is a yellow trait. But the thing is, some of the yellows, they are so creative. I mean, some of them haven't touched ground since, I don't know, late 90s. I mean, they answer questions nobody's asking. They solve problems nobody has heard of, So it's really, they're really good at a lot of things. So you have to give them some space. The phrase "think outside the box" doesn't apply to them. Think outside the box. So there is a box. How do you get into the box? So you have to let them sort of float around a little bit, but you have to sort of, with big Mickey Mouse gloves, that push them in the right direction. So they won't, just, because they will wander away and they will get you to the moon and back without you even notice. And it's going to be really nice and friendly and fantastic all the time. That's the pitfall with yellows. It's going to feel so great, but afterwards you don't know what you have been talking about.
I got it. We're going to get to the greens, or we're going to get to the blues in a minute. But I'm wondering, and I don't remember this in the book, so maybe you did address it or not. But do you find any of these behavioral patterns more specific to a specific gender or not? Do you find more women, you tend to be yellows or greens, and more men turn to reds? I have
the answer to that. Well, the thing is this, and this is here I have to tread lightly, I guess, because I know there's a great discussion, not the least in the States and in UK, here in Europe as well, about the difference between men and women. And I have a great respect for the topic itself.
Sure.
I understand you can't take it too lightly. I understand that, but men and women are not the same.
Right.
We are not the same. That is just the way it is. I'm not talking about biology. I'm talking about personality.
Right.
And I mean, the psychology and I mean, the science here is so clear. You can try to get away from it by fantastic arguments. But the thing is this, women are more relation oriented than men. Women are more interested in people than men are. I am not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I am only stating women are more interested and therefore better with relationships.
I agree.
Because female leaders, they have a bigger tendency to, greater tendency to keep the business going while not forgetting about their family. Men are more sort of focused on either or, mostly the business, which makes them actually look like idiots at the end of the day. Men are more interested in things. They are more task oriented. We can see this statistically. And I mean, there is another tool that is very, very advanced and not so easy to use. That is the Big Five theory. And that's what they used to sort of actually understand these differences. And there was also thousands of psychologists making this research put together. This is in the early 60s. And they realized the overlap is huge. It's a great overlap. It's 60-40. But at the end of the distribution, you can really see the differences. All mostly real people-oriented people are women, and all mostly task-oriented people are men. Again, if it's good or bad, I don't know. Well, we can see this statistically really clear.
So obviously you can't, we can't generalize. I get that, but I'm looking for my help. Like any hints I can get to help better evaluate somebody's behavioral pattern will help me. So does that mean that you tend to, and this is just generally, you would find more men to be more reds and blues than women?
Yes.
Women would tend to be more yellows and greens. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the answer to the question. And I mean, if you were guessing, if you just took some random guy or some random woman and you guessed the women were more mostly yellow and green,
Yeah.
you would be right 60% of the time,
Right.
but only 60% of the time.
Right.
And the same thing goes with the men. 60% of the time, they will be more task-oriented than the average woman.
Got it. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so there
it's
is a huge overlap, but then we
yeah.
can see differences at the end of the, yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. That's fine. All right, so we went halfway through. So let's talk about the greens. You say the friendly greens are easy to hang out with because they are so pleasant and generally care for others. Unfortunately, they can be too wishy-washy and unclear. Anyone who never takes a stand eventually becomes difficult to handle. You don't know where they really stand, and indecision kills the energy in other people. Talk more about how you deal with a green person.
I couldn't have said that better myself. I guess I didn't.
You did.
Well, how do you, yes, I saw that on your eyes, you know. No, just kidding. Well, the greens are easy to be around. As you said, they are pleasant. They're kind. They are not open-minded as the yellows, but they are, you know, open to you as an individual and who are you. And they are good listeners, and they have no need for being at the center of attention themselves. So they will let you take the stage. And they will let you present yourself, and they will listen to you, and they will ask you questions. Oh, that's interesting, you know. And the problem comes, as you touched upon there. The problem comes when you want to hear their true opinion about anything, really. Sure. If you ask a green person, what do you think? It's going to be a counter question. Well, what do you think? Well, I asked you first. So what do you think? I think like everybody else. Have you asked them? It's kind of sort of, so it is tricky, but it's still unthreatening. It's non-antagonistic. So they are kind of, and this is the most common color in the industrialized world. 46% of everybody has green as the strongest factor. Not only green, but the strongest would be green, maybe in combination with something else. But green is actually really common. That's why most people don't like changes, I think, because they really hate changes, and they need to understand the process before. If you're gonna sort of reach and connect to a green person, you have to give them time, and you have to give them room and space to think it over. To red person, say, we're gonna move the office tomorrow, pack your things. Thought you never say anything about this. Okay, I'm done now. I'm going into the car. You know, if you say that to a green person, they will fall down dead. It's going to be a heart attack. What you do to the green person, you say 6 weeks ahead. I'm planning of you know, what do you think about our office? It's a bit cramped in here, don't you think? The air is, you know, it's not enough oxygen. It's an old building. You know, maybe we should. And then the next week you say something like, I'm planning on going downtown and look for other options. Are you willing to come with me? Would you like to follow? And the third week you say, well, I've found some options. We can discuss those in the next meeting. And then you discuss them and you compare, and you can see, okay, this and that. And sure. And the last week before, then I know I'm answering your question. I see I'm losing you, Gene.
No, you're not at all. You're not at all. I'm completely with you. As you're talking and I'm listening, I'm looking at my notes. Because I don't want to lose my train of thought. I want to make sure that I'm following up. I'm
kidding with you a little bit, because I know that's the good part of the red and the blue combination. You can. It's okay to joke with you. You don't take it personally.
Yeah,
that's the good side.
Right.
No, but to be serious, and then you say, well, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Because then you have sort of made them aware, and you have sort of talk them really into, now it's time to take a decision. What do you think? Are you with me? Do you think it's possible? And they say, yeah, no, I'm kind of getting used to the idea. Well, let's move. And then, of course, the best thing would be that the move isn't tomorrow. It would be good if it's sort of next Christmas or something.
Got it.
So everything, you have to take it step by step, slowly but surely.
Got it.
That's the way to do it. If you do it, they are really loyal to the new whatever.
Okay.
That's important.
I am with you. I'm with you on that so far. So just to recap on that, obviously reds were cutting to the chase, right? Yellows, we're happy and agreeing, but just nudging them in the right direction to make a decision or to move towards whatever direction that we want them to go, I guess. Greens, because they're easier to hang out with and they're pleasant, we have to have more of a methodical approach to them to make them come to whatever answer that we want them to come to, or head down that right direction. So that also helps. Let's talk about blues, the last color as well. You say they are calm, level-headed, they think before they speak, all things that I am not. You say their ability to keep a cool head is undoubtedly an enviable quality for all who aren't capable of doing that. However, Blues critical thinking can easily turn to suspicion and questioning those around them. Everyone can be suspect and sinister. So I'm assuming that if you were dealing with somebody that has a blue personality trait, a blue behavior pattern, you're going to want to do everything you can to build trust with that person. Is that a fair statement?
It is.
Okay. What are your recommendations for doing that?
Here you tread really, really lightly. You never say, oh, I feel this, and what do you feel about that? It's the same thing as with the Reds. They don't care about feelings. Emotions are not interesting. Here you only deal with facts, and not just any facts, details.
Right.
The small detail. I mean, the devil is in the details, right? That's where he lives, and you need to pay close to that. Let's dig yourself down to the groundwork. Details, details, details. You know, we had a Swedish astronaut. We had a Swede who went up in space. And my father is an engineer. He's 88 years old, sharp as a knife. So he's so there, you know. And he's a blue engineer. Worked until he was 78. He ran a business of his own and so on. And he had to step down because, well, they thought he was too old. And he said, it's dumb, you know. Why can't I continue? This is interesting. But anyway, so he's his Discovery Channel all night, you know, reading everything and nonfiction. He's really in there. But the thing is, so I told him about the Swedish astronaut. Well, you know, our guy here who's called Christer Fuglesang of all kind of strange name. Well, he went up to space, I think, 3 times, I said. And then the engineer, my father, said, no, he went up to space 2 times.
Aha.
Oh,
okay.
And then, you know, the second time he was in space, he made the heaviest weightless lift in the history of the world, 800 kilograms.
Right.
How about that? You know,
right.
So you get all the additional data and the facts. But if you were sort of saying the wrong things on detail level, he will say, you know, they have to adjust you, and then they will judge you a little bit because you don't know what you're talking about. That's really, really bad. And then I asked him, of course, how do you weigh anything in a weightless condition? And then he told me, because obviously he knew that too, because they kind of know everything. Never challenge a blue person on the facts and the details in their own field, because they will take you down, because they know. They have prepared for this for ages. And if you sort of think you can sort of raise your voice and win them over, think again.
So
that's not going to work at all. You have to prove.
You never presume to be expert. And I'm you know what, just so you know, Thomas, I'm interrupting you for 2 reasons. One is I'm getting your point, and number 2 is I have so many more questions to ask you, and I only have a limited amount of time. And that's really why I'm doing this. I mean, if we were out together for a long dinner, it'd be a little different. But just, you know, when I look at the Blues, then what you're telling me is that you never really presume to know what they know, because if they're an expert in their field or what they do, you're probably going to lose that argument and kill your credibility. But you know, if you know your shit about whatever you know, that's the way to build credibility with them. And these are people that are untrusting, as you say, and that should be your first priority, is to build your own credibility with them. Is that a fair statement?
Well, if you have proved yourself, then you're sort of on the team. You're with them if you have proved yourself. True. And you know what you're talking about. They will, because whatever you say as a new acquaintance, whatever you say, they will check it out. They will control if you knew. They might not say anything. In meeting number 2, if they have checked it up, they will be 1% more friendly. If you actually, it turns out that you were lying or making things up, or you just were fiddling around, you didn't know, they would be 1% more chillier, not chill, but chillier. And you have to pay attention, because these are the stone faces. They won't show you the truth about who they are. A lot of people come to me, well, a lot of people, but some people come to me and say, I have this new employee. There's nothing to analyze, you know, he just sits there. Yeah, what does he do? Well, he just sits there, you know. He took the corner desk, you know, facing the wall, you know. I said, sure. Okay, so the doesn't talk, doesn't grab a cup of coffee with the rest of the team. He never says anything, never smiles. There's nothing to analyze. And I say, there's a lot of things to analyze. This is a clear blue guy. Yeah, you have to pay attention to him, you know.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it's working.
Yeah, I know a bunch of people like that actually, and you're right. They, some of them are deep thinkers, or at least perceive themselves to be deep thinkers. And I've seen that. Okay, let me. I asked you before about gender, and I don't want to get you into trouble, but I do want to. I do want to ask you about these 4 personality traits and how they're impacted by somebody's nationality or culture. I mean, you've said numerous times during this interview about certain things that are more predominant among Americans, for example, versus Sweden. So, how influential is a person's nationality or culture on determining these personality traits? And to supplement that question again, I'm trying to evaluate that person that I'm talking to, that prospective client, that prospective partner, and can I use their culture or their nationality to help me in evaluating their behavioral pattern?
Yes, well, you're not getting me into trouble. I'm perfectly capable of doing that all by myself, actually.
Yeah.
So no, and this is a less risky question than the gender question, I guess. But I've never been into the States, but I love a lot of Americans, and they think in Sweden we are kind of funny because we never speak up, we never say what we think, because we have this greenish politeness about ourselves.
That's the perception.
And yeah, but you are much more trained. I think kids in school in America, they train the kids to be more outgoing, let's say.
True. I mean, but just
be more.
Keep into consideration. I mean, America's made up of 330 million people, and like Sweden. I mean, there's a lot of nationalities and cultures here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, when you're you go down to Florida, the Miami area, it is heavily Hispanic and Latino, and you go up into Midwest part of the country, and it's a lot of people from Scandinavia, for example, which, they're all Americans,
exactly.
but they've got some history behind them, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Why we have this culture filter in Sweden, I don't know. There's a lot of theories. I mean, Sweden hasn't been at war for 250 years. Maybe the only nation in the world who hasn't been at war for so long.
That's interesting.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And I have a theory about this, which is about diplomacy and politics, but that's another story. We're such a small player, so it doesn't matter. But the thing is this, we have this green blanket. If you go to Finland, our closest neighbor, well, our next close neighbor, they are more blue and red, and they have this introverted thing about themselves, which means the Finnish culture is really, really introvert. If you ask a Finnish guy what he's up to, he's going to say, who are you talking to me? Because they sort of, but when you get beneath the surface, it's going to be exactly like everybody else. Sure. If you go to Germany, everybody is an engineer. If you take the subway or the subway underground, which is English and which is American, I never remember that. But anyway, you take the train down beneath the
the underground. My wife is from England, so I can use underground or subway. It's completely fine.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. But the thing is, if the train is 47 seconds late, everybody on the station looks like this. In Berlin, like, it's like this, because everybody's precise and like this. Yeah. In Denmark, which is another Scandinavian country, nobody gives a shit about anything. Sorry, technical term, because they're sort of red and yellow. Right. If you go to Italy, the it's sort of Mediterranean, which is sort of a Latino temperament. It's going to be like this all the time, very dramatic and everything. But it is a cultural thing. It's the way they do it. But when you look beneath the surface and on an individual level, you will find an equal number of reds, yellows, greens, and blue. And that is what's fascinating. And we have the data. The statistics are crystal clear. A Japanese guy is equal likely to be any combination as an American or somebody from Australia or Canada or whatever, which is really, really interesting. People are definitely more alike on an individual level than we are not alike. Yeah,
not alike.
You get my point,
right?
Not alike. And the thing here is. This is really, really good news. If you get to know a person, you can interpret him and you're going to perceive him the same way if you just get him, between four eyes, let's say,
Sure.
face to face. And that is really, really good. Amongst their friends and their teams and so on, they will always play their own culture.
Right.
You would do it here in Sweden, I would be Swedish over there in New York, and that is just the way it is. That's probably a human thing, I guess.
Right.
But people are, I mean, I get emails, literally emails from the States, from New Zealand, from India, from China. I get emails from Norway, Canada, from Peru. I get emails from Azerbaijan. 2 weeks ago, a lady wrote me from Azerbaijan, of all places. I had to look it up on the map. I said, how did she get her hands on my book? This is quite impossible. I mean, the book has been translated into 40 languages, but still Azerbaijan. And she said the same thing. Oh, you know, my husband is so blue and I'm so yellow. It's so fun to read, you know. It's the same feedback as everybody gives me. This was an eye-opener, really, really fresh thinking and everything. And people say the same thing all over the world, which is good news. And therefore, I get so frustrated when I see wars are starting, you know, and people are getting into conflicts, because maybe I'm a bit of a romantic here, but we really don't need to. We don't need to get into conflict, because, you know, to coexist with somebody who is not like you, it's not as hard as we might think. You have to be a bit open-minded. You have to be a bit, let's say, I mean, you have to be a little bit generous, and most people are like that.
Sure.
Most people are kind of generous, and some people are just jerks. What can I say? That is just the way it is, and it's sad.
Sure.
It's really sad.
So I guess what you're
maybe I sound naive here. I
don't think you sound naive
it's
at
okay.
all. No, I don't think you sound naive at all. You sound very Swedish. You know what I mean? Because that, you know, it is. You sound like you come from
I guess I do.
That hasn't been at war for 250 years. You know, so
yes, true.
But I can say, Thomas, that if you walk away, even if you're meeting people from a different, you know, culture, or for a different nation, is what you're saying that really, if you're trying to determine their behavioral pattern, the cultural effects and the nature, their national effects is more on the surface, and below that is really what you're getting at, and people are pretty much the same. In other words, you don't have to give that much weight to their culture or their nationality when it comes to evaluating somebody's personality behavior. Do you agree with that?
Yes, exactly. If you let's say that you are invited for a dinner party at somebody's home in another part of the world, and you give
a full example of this, by the way, in your book, but carry on.
Yeah, okay, I guess
I like a company party,
but,
right?
That's a good example. But the thing is this: when you get beneath the surface, I mean, if you respect their, let's say, their cultural and what they regard as important when it comes to, I mean, how you behave yourself and everything. But when you sit down, you talk to a husband and a wife about, you know, normal things.
Yeah.
You're going to realize, oh, he's sort of red and yellow, and she's sort of green and yellow. I can see why they get along, but you will see the personal traits really, really clearly if you just pay attention.
I see.
If you are there, you have to be sort of in the presence. Then you will see the same thing as you will see in a family in the Middle East, or in Borneo, or I don't know, in Paris or wherever. That is the thing. I've been traveling. I've never been to the States. I've been in Canada and Mexico. For some reason, I've never been to the US. I don't know why that is, but I've been in every country in Europe. And if you ask people about the Hungarians, oh, they're like this, and the Italians, oh, they're like that, but really they're not actually. They're kind of like you and I, which is, I'm fascinated by this. 20 years ago, I didn't know. I really didn't know this.
The book is called Surrounded by Idiots, the 4 types of human behavior and how to effectively communicate with each in business and in life. I do want to say, if you're viewing this or listening to this, the title is hilarious, but the tone is not what the title is. We really do dig into these 4 types of human behavior and how to deal with them. And it's an awesome book. I've been speaking to Thomas Erikson, the author. His website, surroundedbyidiots.com. Thomas, I'm assuming we can also get the book on Amazon and any other normal place that we buy books, correct?
Great.
That is great. Hey, Thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. I got to like a third of my questions, but I learned a lot. Not only from talking to you right now, but also, from reading the book. So highly recommended. And I wish you continued success with it. So thank you very much. Yeah. You've been listening and watching another episode of BizBooks. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks where we'll talk to another great author about another great business book that he or she has written. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We will see you again soon. My name is Gene Marks. Take care.